John Decker is with Fox News. On the Fox News team, he's the only attorney that is on the docket, and we love getting John when it comes to issues that involve legal matters. And there's no legal matter more confusing than this Jussie Smollet case. John Decker, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you. Yeah, what a case. To say it's unusual, I think, is an understatement because I've never seen anything like what is happening with the Jussie Smollett case. Here's an individual. A grand jury looks at all of the evidence. It comes back with 16 counts against Jussie Smollett, and then out of nowhere, the state attorney in Illinois decides to drop all the charges against him, and there's no what's known as elocution. Elocution is when a defendant essentially, before the charges are dropped, if there's a plea deal that's reached with prosecutors, explains what they did, admits to what it is that the charges detail. And that is not what Jussie Smollett did. In fact, he's still saying he was the victim of
he's out
a hate crime.
It's terrible.
The mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, the police chief in Chicago, they're disagreeing quite vociferously with Jussie Smollett in terms of what
I understand we're in a world where, and I keep hearing this, it's like, the reason this is happening is because of it's Trump. This is a one more attack on conservative values. Listen, there hasn't been I don't either, because there hasn't been a story we've seen all year long that has brought liberals and conservatives together like this story. You have one of the most liberals out there in Emanuel, basically calling this a sham. So I guess is this the only thing I thought, well, maybe he's mentally ill and they're trying to protect him. I don't believe that. Is this just taking care of a celebrity?
Well, I think that he had some people in his corner that were people that had the ear of the state attorney's office, and that helps a lot. They often say it's not what you know, it's who you know. And Jussie Smollett was helped a lot, quite a bit, with an email that was sent very early on in this case by the former chief of staff to Michelle Obama. And so, interestingly enough, the former chief of staff to Barack Obama is very displeased with the way things have gone down as it relates to Jussie Smollett. You may have seen that the city of Chicago has sent him a letter, and they say, we want to be reimbursed for all of the money that was spent associated with your investigation to the tune of $130,000. And I don't know, if it's just a simple ask or if they're going to pursue it in court, but that's a pretty significant amount of money.
John, where does this – the allocution is the part that is mind-numbing, right? So I can understand, and we talk about affluenza, but for him to still be out there proclaiming his innocence. But let me ask you, so where do we go from here? Is it just he has to pay the bill, or is there – it's totally dismissed, there's no going back?
Well, I think in this particular case, as it relates to the charges that were initially brought against him, they've been dismissed, and they've been dismissed with prejudice, meaning you can't refile those same charges against Jussie Smollett. So at this case, you can pursue what it is the city of Chicago is pursuing in a civil matter, trying to get reimbursement for the cost of the investigation. They say it's $130,000. And then you can see if there may have been some federal crimes that may have been committed by Mr. Smollett, and that's the reason why the DOJ apparently is looking into all of the events leading up to what Mr. Smollett claims was a hate crime, but what the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, says was a complete hoax.
And what kind of penalty could he face if he broke a federal law? I think that sending a letter through the mail, right? There was a threatening letter.
Yeah, so we're talking about mail fraud, which is a crime. It is a crime, and you can be punished for it. And sometimes, you get somebody on a crime that may not be related to the main crime. It's an underlying crime, and that may be the case here. After all, of certain situations, O.J. Simpson being one of them. O.J. Simpson spent a significant amount of time in jail, and it wasn't for killing two people. So that was not an underlying crime in terms of what happened in Los Angeles, but ultimately, he did do some time. And then, of course, you have the famous case of Al Capone. Al Capone, of course, spent time in jail, not for any of the very violent crimes associated with his world as an underworld figure, as a mob boss, but rather for not paying his taxes. So, look, the federal crimes are pretty serious. The crime of mail fraud is pretty serious, and I don't know if there's enough there in terms of charging him with mail fraud. That's something that the DOJ, specifically the U.S. Attorney in Chicago, is obviously looking into. But this is obviously costing Mr. Smollet quite a bit in terms of his career, because I think that he's the kind of individual right now no one wants to touch in Hollywood. No one wants to hire him.
It is interesting because there are a few out there that are defending him, and I just don't understand. But for the most part, no matter your race, no matter your political preference, no matter what your job is, Hollywood or otherwise, people are criticizing this as like, what is... And by the way, he's up for an NAACP award on Saturday night. I think I'd make an announcement and say we've removed him, but they're not going to.
Oh.
He had better not win this award on Saturday.
Listen, let me get you the quote here.
Yeah.
This is from, who's the guy? He's from Blackish. I can't think of his name. Anthony Anderson.
Anthony Anderson is
said
saying
he
should win.
hopes.
What did he say?
He said, I hope to see him there. I hope he wins. I'm happy for him that the system worked for him in his favor, because the system isn't always fair, especially for people of color. Is that what this is? Is this an attempt to balance racial scales? Let a guy just walk away like that?
Well, look, the police chief of Chicago, who is black, doesn't see this as a race thing. In fact, he's very insulted that, that Jussie Smollet, according to the police chief, tried to play the race card. When he initially came to the police, he still had that rope around his neck, which was, according to the police chief, a made-up account. And so the way these awards work, I think, I could be mistaken, I think that, for this type of award show, when you show up to the award show that you're getting an award.
Wow.
It's not like, there's like 3 different people that are competing with you for the award. I think that you go to that award show knowing that you're going to go up on stage and make a speech, and that's the reason why he traveled from Chicago to Los Angeles to attend this award show.
Oh boy. The gall to even attend, that is just, it is. I think about...
No shame.
No shame whatsoever. I'll leave it at this, John, and get your opinion. I think about, the meme that's going around is Flynn, what he's facing versus this guy. But I think about every guy or woman that's been arrested on a petty charge of possession of marijuana, or the guy that was behind in his child support because he lost his job and now has to do weekend duty in jail for the next year because he was behind in child support. Those are just 2 examples of people that are being punished more than this guy that created this whole big, horrible scenario where it could have resulted in a mistake. People could have died.
Well, I think you raise a really good point. And if I was a lawyer defending someone accused of a petty crime in Chicago, I'd say, I want the kind of sentence that you gave Jussie Smollett. Yeah. Why doesn't my client get a Jussie Smollett sentence where he's just spending 8 hours at the Rainbow Coalition to answer phones and stuff some envelopes, and then it's done. Your slate's wiped clean. So to me, I think it sets a terrible precedent in the city of Chicago going forward.
John Decker, as always, we appreciate it.
Hey, you too. Thanks a lot.
Right.
Thanks for having me on, and we'll talk real soon.
Cool. Thanks. John Decker from Fox News.